reality score.
Okay. We do a number of projects in the city. We had this crazy idea about 6 years ago that rather than chasing making the millions after losing a lot of business opportunity when the horrible crash came, that actually we thought about what are we actually doing and why, and that led us to, well, actually we were doing all this stuff so we could make a really big difference in the future. And there were two conclusions. One was we probably need to start making a difference now, and two is we've probably got to hit hard times about another 3 or 4 times. All the books of all the great billionaires, they go bust 3 or 4 times, right? So just thought, we've not got the energy to do that, but what we do have is we do have the skills and the networks right now to make a change. So what we did say was, we'll dedicate 20% of our time to making a difference, and it's actually turned out to be 80% of that time. And in doing that, we've set up things. We've got Patch Your Kitchen Nights, some of you may have heard of, which has been an event that goes on in the city for coming up to nearly 8 years. We are the founders of the Sheffield soup movement and the subsequent UK soup movement. We were featured on the BBC when we set up. What that basically is live crowdfunding events on a night. So you pay your minimum £5 donation on the door. 4 people pitch. You decide which idea you like the most, and the winner gets 100% of the door money. It makes a huge difference. We've already funded 11 projects in Sheffield, but we support far more. We get around about 23, 24 applications each time we do it, and we do it 6 times a year now. So through the Patch Your Kitchen Nights network, which is all the creative and digital side of Sheffield, again, that's all very collaborative. So both of these projects they rely on a different economy. No money changes hands apart from the ticket reservation fee. And as you've heard, one set of money goes straight to a winner of a pitch. The other set of money covers costs like printing and buying bands and speakers a drink on the night, or persuading a big speaker to come speak to us for us with a steak and red wine sometimes. So we've learned to work in an alternative economy and do really well. If any of you get the opportunity to come to a Patch Your Kitchen Night, it is a high level production by a bunch of committed local volunteer people from community, from freelance and from small business world. We have a strictly independent business world rule so that we're able to give them focus and access to markets in ways that their marketing budgets wouldn't normally allow them to afford. So having learned all of those things, we wanted a place that we could do that all the time, every day, because these things that happen, they are truly amazing collaborations using existing ways of working, but also working in alternative economies and collaborative society, those kind of things. So zoom forward our journey, we started looking for a building. Someone tipped us off that Mount Pleasant might need looking into to see how if it's actually going to be available. We put a fight, so we've had two phases for our project. We had a year of 2.5 years of fight, and now so fight is saved, and now we are moving on to developing. So we are very, very close. We achieved Save Mount Pleasant status by encouraging the council to put this really important, from a location point of view in the community, property back on the market for an open and fair disposal process. In doing that, we also were able to make sure that the beautiful details inside the building were absolutely accurately listed. I don't know if you know, some of you will know about listed buildings. So at one point you could have, it would say, grade 2 listed building, roof, windows, doors, and there might not be any more further detail. And then the law changed, which meant that it was everything. So we were like, yeah, but like this building has got everything, and it's got a lot, and we don't want that lost by a developer. We want to make it really tough for a developer to get commercial value out of this because of what they're going to have to save. So that was the Save campaign. Here we are in our alternative economy. We're really proud to announce that we've got Bon Bryan as our architectural partners. They're doing all of this on pro bono. We've got 4 phases. I'll talk about the 4 phases as we move through. We've also got CMP that were previously in the Barrows as our partners, again for all of the 4 phases. The first 2 phases is all pro bono goodwill partnership work. So Nabarro's, CMP and Bon Bryan, and today we also secured very of the moment but fire safety for all 4 phases as well. What we have is a vision. We've got incredible outcomes, and we are aiming at solving the big problems in the world, but of course one person can't fix that, right? So you can have an impact, you can show a way, and you can be inspiring at the ways, showing people how to do it. So we looked at the 10 biggest problems that the World Economic Forum have been saying that we have for a number of years. It's a really, really insightful report, and we've distilled that down to 6 areas, and from that we have developed our strategy for our new way of living, working, playing and learning together. So what I need to, that's me, John, by the way. I just need to show you the site. So can we see it from here, Johnny? We were working out earlier.
No,
so
it's directly blocked.
It's directly blocked by this tall building here. There's a green glass building. Behind that is a hectare of a mansion, a stable block and an old Victorian school on this plot that is nestled between one of the most affluent areas in the UK and one of the most deprived areas in the European Union. And in that deprived area there are over 42 different nationalities of people. So there are some interesting opportunities there for creative collaboration and bringing communities together in a really positive way. So looking at how do we all live, work, learn, play and learn together. So this is the lovely work the architect has done for us. We've left the pink stroke purple blobbing for a bit of conversation. I'll explain that a little bit more. This may not be how the site ends up. This is our vision. This is our vision to take to the community and to the council, say, look, this is what we can do with this place. We can create an absolute heart of Sharrow. Let's do this rather than turn it into blocks of flats or a retirement home. You can put those things anywhere, but this needs to be in a special place. So what we have is the blob. I will leave the blob till last because you're all intrigued, right? You're like going, how could you put that there in front of that beautiful old building? Here we have what are going to be, for want of a better word, an incubator or an accelerator for retail space, but they are retail live spaces. Best way to get you to understand that is if you imagine there's a wall that you can push forward and back. So you push forward when you're starting out and you're really small and you've only got a few products, so you need a small shop front, you pull the wall back. This is your living space. Well, anyone who has ever set up a business knows that when you start small, you have to cut back so much. So what we want to do is enable people to live and work in the same place rather than have to make these horrible compromises about how they put bread on the table, for example. This is a retail space with flats above. This is all affordable housing, by the way. Some of it rented, some of it for sale. Strict no buy-to-let on the purchasing. With accommodation above. Here are at the back again. This Victorian school is not listed, but oh, it is so beautiful. It's not fit to stay standing, so we're going to keep the shell of the beauty and then build out on the left and the right hand side for, again, affordable housing. This is all for local people. event space, the main house. You see this here? It's not a swimming pool, don't get too excited. It's 2 floor downs with a glass roof, MIT standard Fab Lab. And we have, Sharrow has its very own MIT Sloan Fellow that is moving back and joining us in August this year, which was a complete coincidence. We're really not that clever. He got in touch, he was like, this is amazing. The house, we are going to be bringing that back to life and giving it a proper refurbishment and all of its beautiful, beautiful glory. It belonged to council offices for quite some time, so the modifications you have to put into these buildings to meet office standards, it hides a lot of beauty. We can't wait to get some of that fake ceiling down and what have you. So that'll be, sadly we've got to have living space in there. We didn't want to, we wanted that to be for everyone, but that is what unlocks financially our ability to do the rest of the site. So there'll be 2 floors of live space. A top floor will be a co-working and a desk leasing space. The Fab Lab will also have co-working and desk and office lease space. And our, down in the cellars, Fab Lab. So, and then we've obviously got our training areas and our event spaces. So we'll have 3 event spaces, one for around about 50 people, lecture style, one for around about 200 people, and then this one will be around about 350 people. So we're kind of meeting the need of the bits that are missing in the city. It's just a nice view. Without the pink blob, we'll be having things like teenage markets, things like food stalls, but this will all be local people coming together to make these things happen. Yes, we'll have the more commercial sites there to come forward, but you know what? The money that they bring, that goes into the trust fund. The bit I've not told you yet, this is not for us, this is for the community. We're putting it into 250-year trust for them, along with very strict guidelines. So there will always have to be a community advisory board. There will also be a youth advisory board, and they'll be working along 12 key principles that we've decided that this must follow and deliver. So when I'm haunting the place, you're not haunting it, are you? No, I am.
It's not possible to carry.
Yeah. So these are just some images that we've got. This has taken such a long time to get to this place. This has been the result of years of consulting with the community. The purple blob isn't as bad as it seems or sounds. In Japan, the tsunami came and there was no infrastructure. There was no solid buildings to do anything. So Anish Kapoor, a famous artist and architect, basically designed this place that blows up in 2.5 hours, does some great event work, and then packs down again in 2.5 hours. The equivalent of doing that on our site means we would have 2 days before and 2 days after of rigging and putting up an event space to then bring it down. This keeps the noise in and the weather out. That's what it currently looks like. That's a rather beautiful picture of a very dilapidated building. So we've now moved into Avenues to Zero mode, which is, we don't say if on our team, we say when. So this deal isn't done by any means, but we say when because there's no plan B. So Avenues to Zero is our organisation. It's a CIC that we've set up. We've got our CMP, previously Navarro's, are working with us on what the legal infrastructures need to be and make sure that the community are absolutely protected and have this for 250 years. And we've got 6 avenues. Avenues to Zero is like the absolute best. 0 defects, 0 waste, 0 emissions. That's our goal, and all of the projects that will happen on site will be with that in mind. So we've got housing, we've got food. We want to look at. Did any of you watch BBC Click at the weekend? BBC Click at the weekend showed the most amazing hydroponic farms that are growing vegetables and are able to manage them so well that they can turn them into meat products that we like so much. I'm not saying that as a vegetarian, I'm saying that as an environmentalist. It's now proven beyond doubt how much meat farming is costing our environment. We've got energy. Oh yeah, you know, if that wasn't big enough and bold enough, we're looking at going to completely off-grid for the site for anything that we can. But we've got some of the best people helping us to do that. So Professor Tony Ryan of the Grantham Centre, he's on our advisory board. He's really excited to help us to find ways how we do this. We have an enterprise avenue that will be, as it says, but startups and giving local people access to university standard or the stuff they wouldn't normally get access to, but we can get them ready. They've got some amazing ideas and it would be wonderful to see them come through. And the welfare avenue, there is already on site a council provided or supported, they deliver services for the council called ShipShape, a health and wellbeing centre. The work they do there is incredible. We sat in there for a day and we were blown away with just the difference that they're making to people's lives every day just by having a bit of human contact and sociable conversation. So we're taking them with us with the project. Our aim is to be able to completely fund them eventually, but at the start we're building them a bespoke space so the 2,000 people that they serve have got a gorgeous environment that they can thrive even better in and give them capacity for growth. And then finally the environment avenue. Now what's all this got to do with smart technology? We've got basically 4 phases where we can get as innovative as we want and play as much as we all like with smart technologies. So the first phase, which is the let's see what we can get done. So if when we get a yes after Friday the 14th of July, we have a phase of 12 to 18 months to get planning secured and to get our finances in place. During that time, we will have a huge amount of time to experiment with different things. And if we're experimenting with different things, we can all take measurements of them. So things like, one of my ex-colleagues was telling me on Saturday that he uses Raspberry Pis to check his events management, just to check sound decibel levels. That's something we can show. We can get the local children involved and say, right, okay, we know the guys at Pomeranian, come and do some workshops, show the children how to do it, and let's start measuring things like noise and when they're pumping the cars past with their really loud exhausts and all of those kind of things. These sensors, and it's like less than 100 quid, where other people are charging like 1,000, 2,000 on a per unit basis. So my question to you guys, because we don't know the answers to this, is how do we be smart now? How do we get smart during acquisition and make use of the technology? Through development, what opportunities does that give us for, you know, a smart building site, for example? Whilst we're growing and changing the development, and then business as usual and living as usual, those will be the 2 final phases. So on that basis, thank you. Over to you, because we just want to make it smart Sharrow, basically. So thank you.
Questions? Suggestions?
Who's going to help us make it a smart site?
How much does it cost? What's your ambition around that?
So far the cost that's been done just based on the development, so without any things like smart taken into consideration, it's a £17 million development. Obviously, as we start looking at during that 12 to 18 month phase how we can make it super smart and other ideas that will come on board, especially once we start talking to MIT, I imagine there will be some incredible innovations that will come out from that. So starting price, 17 million. That's what we've got to find.
That's to do everything all at once.
Yeah, everything all at once. But actually, if we're phasing it, if we end up doing phasing development, we're looking at, we will need 4.5 million of capital at any one time.
How's the crowdfund going? What's the...
We're not doing crowdfund on it just yet. So what we do, we've been crowdsourcing a lot of the data about what people want and need in the area. Until after the 14th of July, we can't legitimately talk. So we've got lots of funders that are interested, we've got lots of people that will help us with crowdfunding, but we can't do any of that until we get given the yes.
So you're talking to investors already?
Yeah.
Potential investors. So yeah, I didn't want you to think I was rude, Andy, but Amadeus Venture Capital would like messaging me on the phone. I was like, I'm really sorry, Andy, I need to reply. Yeah, that's like, that could be the all at once funding, for example.
Cool. That's really cool.
So we've got good links into philanthropic networks. We're not looking for traditional investment. We're looking for social investors, socially minded people that are looking to buy, looking to rent, and also thinking about the legacy of when someone buys, that it will come back into the development. So they'll be able to make a little bit of money, but they're buying into that whole, this is all for a much greater good and for the future generations of the area. Okay, sorry.
So you mentioned 14th of July a couple of times.
Yeah.
So what is, it might have skipped me by, but what is that decision point and how much of this does it unlock?
Okay, so the 14th of July is the council's deadline. It's midday, the 14th of July, that all interested parties need to put their bid together. So we will be competing with men with money. They'll be saying, I'm going to give you, I don't know, that might say a lot. We had someone, we can't get a valuation from him from the council, so we had someone come out and look at it, and he was like, look, the truth is, all we ever do in these is we'll say, what do you want it to be? We can make it look like it's worth nothing because of the work, or we can make it look like it's worth a lot. That's the reality of when you're dealing with a site with so much maintenance and legacy issues. Yeah, so 14th of July we'll be offering our scheme based on its social value rather than any hard cash value. But the thing is, we don't want to make money out of this. What we want is the site to be able to sustain itself and for the council to get good capital receipts back off it, because why shouldn't they? We can't berate a council for not providing the services that we want if we're not prepared to pay what we need to pay in order to do that. So we want to be setting examples. Is that answered?
You said before about the Sharrow community, and it's quite a complex community,
Yeah.
multitude of different nationalities.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned that you're crowdsourcing some information at the moment to
Yeah.
understand community needs. How will that be ongoing with this development? How are you going to make sure that that community that's constantly changing
Yeah.
is going to have a voice in this?
So we have written, I say have, the lawyers will do this for us, written into anything that's constitutional around either the buildings or any of the legal entities that are operating on site, that the community trust, the community advisory board and the youth advisory board are written into that. So for 250 years, those two things need to be in existence, and whoever the appointed trustees are have to listen to those people. However, what we want is, we know exactly what problems we're looking to solve, so we'll be writing the principles by which those communities give their best advice on, because hey, like, we all want free rent and free cars, and so yeah, it's about giving them a container by which they become the lobbying for the next 250 years around food security, energy, environment, housing, and the other two.
We're also well connected to a lot of groups around the area.
Yeah.
What we're doing, so we're hopefully forming a hub and spoke model, so we'll be the funnel that does all the startup support, then goes on to take space in those places around, Portland Works, Harvard, we gather a really supportive of what we're doing, Sharrow Community Forum, Asset Lock on at CIC, and we're just constantly meeting with all the different groups and using their existing networks and feeding into what we do.
Yeah, one of the biggest lessons for me was, don't listen to common rhetoric, I suppose. So we're told, but these communities, these 42 communities, these 42 different nationalities, they don't like to engage, they don't like to mix. They bloody do, right? Anyone that is under the age of 30 absolutely wants to. Anyone that is over the age of 65 are really worried about loneliness. The time is now to start be able to create those environments. And in order for us to do that, we're not just going, oh, we're going to put this place together and then everyone's going to live there happily ever after. We know there's going to be problems. We know there's going to be infrastructure that's required. We've already speaking to, we're fortunate from our corporate background and leadership that we know the right people to help us with things like software development, enterprise resource planning systems. Yeah. You wanted to say something?
Well, yeah, that's what we want to do, is we want to use technology to support what's going on rather than make technology the ends of what we're trying to achieve. And the unique thing about this site is because that building's been there for so long, pretty much everyone who's lived in the community for more than about 5 years already has a relationship with the building. And the stories that we've been told, where they literally every single person who's lived there for 10 years or more has a connection to that building in some way, and an affiliation and a love for it. We want to use that as an advantage, but what we want to do is, rather than just restore it so it's nice to look at or walk around, we want to make sure that we're putting things in place that enable it to be there for another 250 years serving the community. Obviously the world around it has changed lots, and that's what we want to develop and put in place.
When we first came up with the idea that architects were a bit, okay, we'll see where this goes. Now they're saying we'll support you all the way, because if this doesn't happen in Sheffield, it's going to happen somewhere else. Every single one of their meetings they go to now, they're being asked about Mount Pleasant because they're going to be asked.
That was going to be one of my points. You know, my background is in economic development, and one of the things I'd like to say about this is it's probably one of the most interesting and significant projects that isn't Manchester and Liverpool in terms of placemaking.
Oh wow!
You know, it's just really, really cool to see this in the north of England.
Well, what we
And
want
it's
to
something
create
we should. It's something that the city. I'm going to be outspoken, Mark. Sorry. It's something that the city should be supporting fully, and it should be, you know, and the community should be behind it. I was born in Nether Edge. I know this area well. I've seen it go through dreadful changes, and it's really great to see a project like this come through.
much appreciated. And what Pennie hasn't had the chance to mention, that this is the prototype for what we want to open source as a model. Because in our experience, there's no one out there that goes, right, you need to do this, this, and this in this order, and you can regenerate a community. This is going to be the first project for Avenues to Zero, and we want to open source this model so that anyone else can replicate it and bring their community back to life.
Yeah, so all of us said what we have is a proposition that we hope other people with, you know, a bit of strong determination and building the right connections in their local town or city, they can have all of the know-how that we all develop for free. There's no need for people to make money off the back of this, because everyone gets their own little bit in the economy and be really vibrant around it just by what's happening. Sorry, boss.
So you need a tamed technologist who understands smart cities that sits on your advisory board.
Yes, that would be awesome. A
So
super duper duper one.
Who here would like to do that? It's essentially the ask, isn't it? Because this is going to be a long-term project, and you've got all these different phases, and you want to be able to ask someone fairly regularly, what's sensible to do, what can we do, what technologies are there, what partners are there that
Why
can
not go one stage further and ask Scott Kane at the Future Cities Catapult?
Yeah.
You know, or somebody from the Future Cities Catapult to come and play.
Oh, okay.
I can make an introduction for you.
Please, that would be lovely.
Let's
So I
sit-
think
let's
that's
sit
our
down and
hole
just
in our plan at the moment.
Sit
We
down
don't
and
know
discuss
those
a
people.
brief, and let's have a conversation about it. There are plenty of people in the UK that can do it.
They've either been up this week, or they're coming up next week, or they're Future Cities Catapult
The
send a
FCC.
delegation to Sheffield at some point in the next few weeks.
Yeah, they're in the rounds at the moment. There's
Yeah.
the partnership director, a guy called Sam. I can't remember his surname, but he's the head of partnerships. He's doing the rounds in all the universities at the moment.
You've been talking to David Chater from Powers of Change. He's in Sheffield.
Yes, but not for this project.
You should talk to him.
Yeah, are they doing grant, or is it funded?
It's grants and finance,
Yeah.
but I just spun 150 grand grant off them, so.
Yeah.
Might
Yes,
be
thank you.
interesting.
We'll look into it again. But when we first looked at it, it's a really expensive way of getting finance. But the grant side obviously isn't. It's the mixed loan bit.
Yeah.
I still think you should probably have somebody local
I'd really
on
love
the advisory
someone
board.
local.
And I mean Scott Kane or someone else from the FCC.
The only other thing I can think of is Red Ninja Studios in Manchester.
It's Liverpool.
Must be Sheffield.
Liverpool
I'm
side,
really
yeah.
sorry. We are really.
Well, we can't have a Sloan fellow
Very
for
interesting.
Yeah.
Sheffield.
Well, no, the only reason he's a yes is because he's coming to us in August. He's moving
Okay.
back, so.
Currently in Boston.
But where possible, we want this to be Sheffield. So all of our approved supplier listings, our preferences will be
But I think there's an
about
element there
local.
that you need to consider, which is we don't have world-class talent in this city in everything. And you need to bring
That's
that world-class
true.
talent to the city to show the city that you have the nous and that you have the following.
Yeah,
So there's
we
a
have
balance
our
there you
own
need to make.
But what if we chose a great person that's representative of Sheffield to get all of that knowledge? He becomes the go-to
Yeah.
person
If you can find
that gets the
enough.
world leaders in. I think that's what we need, because then we start developing our own ecosystem.
But then we can learn from best
So,
practice.
Chris,
as well.
would you do it? Sorry.
I would absolutely do it. I'm not sure I've got the time to do it.
Ah,
because I
yeah,
would do
that's
so
the
many
other
other
question,
things.
isn't it? We are
But
really
also,
low
I think
maintenance.
Andy's right. If you can convince someone like that to come and be on the advisory board, or you know, pledge themselves to it in some way, then it changes. You know, it'll completely change the amount of attention.
Yeah,
that you
MIT,
get.
tick.
Yeah.
Chris,
You know,
if
somebody
you
else
want to
take-
share it, I'd share it. I'm a bit nervous about committing to something because it's like, how much time does this take? But I'd help you. And I think we have got world-class expertise in this city. It's just that
I agree.
It's under the radar.
I agree,
not-
but it's
not
about
used.
getting it's about getting somebody who's a brand as well as
Yeah.
to be
They
honest.
all
back it.
chase the
Yeah.
typical strategies,
Yeah.
which there's 540 internet of technology, internet of things, platforms out there, and everyone ends up building their own. But yes. So I'd help. I just don't know what I'm committing to yet. That's why I'm a
We-
bit hesitant.
Coffee and beers as a start.
Coffee and
conversation.
beers is
Perfect
always, yeah.
place to start from.
If we've had a good
It's
week.
the way
of
everything
steak.
else has been built.
So, yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to find a way to get involved, we'd absolutely love to hear from you, whether that's now or in the future. But what we think we've got a really good opportunity to get the world shouting about Sheffield, and even better, if you live in Sharrow, this means so much because the world would be shouting great positive things about Sharrow.